Imagine this, the same argument, the same disappointment, the same restless night, just wearing a slightly different mask. It feels like life is looping, doesn't it? The same pain arrives in new clothes, as if destiny is pushing repeat. But what if the loop isn't a punishment? What if it's a mirror? Ibn Arabi, one of the great sages of the inner path, afford a startling insight. What appears to repeat in our lives is a sign of something divine trying to be seen through us. The question is not, why does this keep happening to me? But what is it in me that keeps meeting this form? If that lands even a little, stay with me, because we're about to turn your pain into a compass. The Sufis call God al-Haq, the real land. They insist that the real is closer than our next breath. The Quran whispers this intimacy in a single, quiet line. We are nearer to him than his jugular vein. Quran 52:16. Ibn Arabi takes that nearness and brings it into the theater of daily life. The people you meet, the love you lose, the words that wound you, are not random. They are disclosures, self-unveilings of the real through forms. If that sounds abstract, consider how a single sun shines across 1,000 windows, each window reflecting the same light differently. Your life is one such window, and when the same light keeps returning, it may be asking you to clean the glass. Here is one of Ibn Arabi's most provocative principles. There is no repetition in self-disclosure, la takra fl tayak. He states this in the Futrat al-Makkiyah, the Meccan revelations. If the real never repeats himself, why do our experiences seem to repeat? Ibn Arabi's answer is bracing. The disclosure is ever new, but our responses are old. The life that visits us is fresh. The habit that meets it is stale. Pain returns not because the universe is cruel, but because our pattern insists on being the same someone every time. When the pattern loosens, the form of the event changes, or perhaps we finally see the hidden mercy that was present all along. Think of your heart as a polished mirror. Ibn Arabi says that the world is a theater for God's names, the compassionate, the wise, the patient, the just. Every encounter is a name seeking recognition. But if the mirror is fogged by fear, ego, or unexamined beliefs, we only see a blur, and we call it misfortune. In the Fushas al-Hikam, Ibn Arabi suggests that the real is the being of all that exists. The names are the ways that being becomes intimate with us. So when the same pain keeps surfacing, a betrayal, a rejection, a failure, ask, which name is knocking? Perhaps it is Al-Sabar, teaching endurance. Perhaps Al-Latif, hiding a subtle kindness. Perhaps Al-Hakim, arranging a wisdom that takes time to ripen. Our ancestor Adam offers a first mirror. He enters the garden, falls through forgetfulness, tastes the fruit, and then learns the art of turning back. The Quran notes that Adam received words, then turned and was received. Quran 2:37. The wound and the return are not two roads, they are one path. Adam's repeat wasn't a cosmic glitch. It was a curriculum, a first intimacy with loss, a first understanding of mercy. If your life has felt like a fall you never stop reliving, consider the possibility that your words have not yet found you, that the prayer hidden inside the pattern has not yet been spoken. What then keeps us stuck? The Sufi tradition names it the nafs, the compulsive self that survives by repeating itself. The nafs is not bad, it is simply terrified of dissolving. It prefers familiar pain to unknown freedom, so it runs the same script. I always get abandoned, I always lose, and life, faithfully reflecting our inner posture, brings us scenes that confirm the belief. This is why Sufi practice emphasizes muhasabah, self-reckoning, and muraqabah, sacred watchfulness. We watch for the moment the old story seizes the steering wheel. We breathe, we name the story, and in that act we begin to unwrite it. There is a saying beloved by the Sufis, cited by Ibn Arabi in the Futrat: who knows himself, knows his Lord. You may have heard it as a hadith. Its chain is debated by scholars, but its wisdom has shaped Muslim spirituality for centuries. Ibn Arabi reads it as an invitation to descend into the layers of the self until you recognize the face behind all faces. The more clearly you know your patterns, the tender spots, the inherited fears, the adorations that drive you, the more clearly you glimpse the names moving through your days. This is not psychology instead of theology. It is awareness as devotion. In the mirror of your honesty, the divine grows legible. Consider Joseph. His life seems like a chain of recurring heartbreaks. A beloved son betrayed, a trusted servant slandered, a prisoner forgotten, and yet each wound is an initiation. The well is a womb, the prison is a passage. The betrayal prepares him to feed the very brothers who once abandoned him. The Quran gathers his story in a single surah and calls it the best of stories for a reason. Quran 12. Here is the Sufi reading. What appears to be repetition is actually ascension, a spiral staircase disguised as a circle. If your heart is Joseph-like, loving, dreaming, misunderstood, know that your pattern may be a training in generosity your future will require. So how do we meet the next wave of familiar pain without drowning? Start with a gentle question. Which divine name is visiting me now? If the door closes, is it Al-Fatah, the open-airy, training my trust? If I'm ignored, is it Al-Basaratha, all-seeing, asking me to witness myself with kinder eyes? Ibn Arabi warns that the names seek equilibrium in us. If you lean too hard into one, life introduces its complement so the circle can close. In the Fuchsias he ties this to the secret of balance, mercy and rigor, expansion and contraction, power and beauty. When you fail to listen, the lesson grows louder. When you lean in, the lesson grows sweet. Let's make it concrete. Think of a relationship that keeps ending the same way. Instead of asking, why do I meet the same person? Ask, why do I become the same person? Track the moment your body tightens, your voice sharpens, your breath abandons you. That is the nafs re-entering the stage. Now, place your hand on your heart. Breathe. Whisper a name that meets the moment. Ya Latif, O subtle one, or Ya Halim, O forbearing one. Surrender is not passivity, it is participation. Ibn Arabi would say, you are inviting a new tajali, a fresh self-disclosure. By stepping out of your old costume, the event may not change at once, but you will. And that changes everything. If you remember only one image from this part, let it be this. The real is ever new, and you are invited to meet him newly. The loop you fear is not a trap, but a teacher. There is no repetition in self-disclosure, only our reluctance to rise to what is being shown. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the anatomy of these patterns, explore the inner idols that keep us stuck, and learn how Ibn Arabi's religion of love transforms suffering at its root. Now, let's walk into the workshop, where patterns are made quiet. Ordinary moments in which your heart carves idols out of fear and calls them me. In part 1 we said the loop is a teacher. Here we learn its grammar. Ibn Arabi often reminds us that the heart is a house with many rooms, and what you seat on its throne rules your perception. When pain repeats, it's usually because an inner idol is still enthroned. The need to be right, to be chosen, to be seen a certain way. These idols are not stone, they are stories. Break the story, and the idol crumbles. Keep the story, and you will meet it again in the next city, under a different name, speaking with a familiar ache. The Sufis speak frankly about the nafs and its disguises. Sometimes it is the pleaser, sometimes the martyr, sometimes the judge who always finds someone guilty, usually you. The cur and gestures to this inner idolatry with stark simplicity. Have you seen the one who takes his own desire as his god? Quran 45 banding 23. Ibn Arabi would not shame you for this. He would invite you to relocate worship. He'd say, give the throne back to the one who already breathes you. When devotion shifts from protecting your image to serving the real, life stops needing to pry your fingers off the same old mask. Ibn Arabi's key to this shift is the imaginal nature of the world. In the Futuhat al-Makkiyah, he explains that existence manifests through the barzakh, the isthmus, where meanings take on forms. Your life is a river of meanings clothed in scenes. There is no repetition in self-disclosure, he insists, because the meaning wearing today's scene differs from yesterday's, even if the costume looks similar. He also speaks of the renewal of creation at each breath. Nothing stands still, everything is being remade. If you keep suffering the same wound, it's not because the world is static yet, it's because a part of you is refusing to meet today's meaning with today's awareness. So, let's practice seeing the meaning. Begin a small, sacred ledger of patterns. After a difficult interaction, write 3 things: what happened, what you felt in your body, and which story took the mic. Then add a 4th line: which divine name might be present here. If you felt dismissed, maybe Al-Karim is inviting you to honor your own worth. If you felt invaded, maybe Al-Hafiz is teaching you to guard your boundaries without hardening your heart. This is Muhasabah, gentle self-accounting, not set-attack. Over time you'll notice the hinge moments right before the old loop closes. That is where freedom enters, one conscious breath at a time. A map from Revelation illuminates this work. Moses travels to meet the green man Al-Kidrand, vows to be patient, only to resist the first 3 tests: a boat damaged, a boy slain, a wall repaired without pay. Each time he protests, demanding immediate clarity. Only at the end does Khidr unveil the hidden mercies woven into what looked like violations. Quran 18. The Sufi reading is practical. When your story insists on judging before the meaning ripens, you interrupt the lesson and repeat the class. Patience sabr is not passively swallowing pain. It's trusting the name at work long enough for wisdom to become visible. From here, Ibn Arabi speaks of adab with the name's fineness of response to the qualities of the real. If rigor visits you, meet it with humility rather than bitterness. That is adab with al-kahar. If expansion floods you, share it rather than hoard it. That is adab with al-wasi. He writes in the Fuchsius al-Hikam that every name seeks its right in the servant. You can feel the shift in real time. The jaw unclenches, the breath deepens, the eyes soften. A few beads of dhikr, whispered sinceria, Rahman, Ya Rahim, can change the flavor of an hour. Change enough hours, and the same old week dissolves into a new life. Love is the great solvent of repetition. Ibn Arabi's famous verse from the Tarjuman al-Ashwaq opens a door. My heart has become capable of every form, a meadow for gazelles and a monastery for monks. I follow the religion of love. Whichever way love's camels turn, there is my religion and my faith. He is not preaching vagueness. He is describing a heart so spacious that no single fear can boss it around. When you practice the religion of love, the idol of approval loses its altar. The idol of control loses its soldiers. Love does not erase boundaries. It endows them with purpose. It does not deny pain. It baptizes it in meaning. Consider Jonah, swallowed not only by a whale but by a pattern, fleeing the discomfort of his calling, then drowning in the consequences. In the belly of darkness, he surrenders with a luminous prayer. There is no God but you. Glory be to you. Indeed, I was among the wrongdoers. Quran 21-87. The Sufi heart hears this as the archetype of pattern breaking, naming the real, praising the real, and taking radical responsibility without self-hatred. When you find yourself in the same dark stomach of a familiar problem, borrow Jonah's triad: name, praise, own. Watch how quickly fresh air returns. Now for a Diani life drill. The text arrives that normally derails you. Before replying, place the phone down and your palm over your heart. 3 slow breaths. Name the pull of the old story. The judge is here, or the abandoned child is speaking. Choose a name to host instead. Ya Halim, O forbearing one. Craft a response from that frequency. Or delay until your inner weather clears. Later, extend the loop breaking into the body. A brief walk, water on your face, 2 rakas of gratitude, or a page of honest journaling. These small acts are not decorative. They alter the inner architecture that attracts repetition. Ibn Arabi would add, honor the circle you cannot see. Your pattern is braided with your ancestors' longings, your community's wounds, and the world's tides. When you soften a reaction, you also soften the field. Here the perfect human, the insan, Al-Kamil is your model, a being who reflects the names without distortion, a clear mirror that receives and returns light. You will have days of fog, everyone does, but you will also have flashes of clarity when a hurt arrives and, for once, you do not collapse. Mark those moments. They are signatures of a new self being born. We are nearing a hinge. You have met your inner idols, practiced the ledger of patterns, and tasted the adab of the names. The ground is moving. In the next part, we'll explore how relationships, work, and even money mirror your inner theology, and how Ibn Arabi's vision of unity of being turns daily friction into fuel for awakening. Before we go on, share one reflection in the comments. What same pain keeps knocking in your life, and which divine name do you suspect is behind the lesson? Let's bring this teaching home to the places where your life actually breathes: your kitchen table, your workplace, your bank account, your late-night messages. Ibn Arabi's vision, often called the unity of being, is not abstract metaphysics. It is a way of seeing that turns friction into fuel. If the real discloses himself through forms, then every relationship is a liturgy, every deadline a dhikr, every invoice a parable. You don't have to like every scene to learn from it. You only have to meet it with the right eye. The Sufis say the heart has 2 eyes, reason and imagination. When both open, you see meanings in forms, not just forms in isolation, and the same old pain. It starts to look like a messenger you've finally agreed to hear. Consider love, partnership, friendship, the places where our loops shout the loudest. You want closeness, but your body flinches at the risk. You crave honesty, but your tongue rehearses old defenses. The Quran gives a tender image for this covenant. Spouses are garments for one another. Quran 2-187. Coverings that warm, guard, and beautify. If the person beside you is a garment, your job is to learn how to wear and be worn without tearing. Ibn Arabi would ask, which name are you refusing to host? If jealousy flares, perhaps Olgani, the self-sufficient, is inviting you to rest in sufficiency. If you feel unseen, maybe Al-Basir, the all-seeing, is asking you to witness yourself before demanding vision from another. Now enter the office, the studio, the classroom. Work can feel like compulsion, the same conflicts, the same ceiling, but work is also a mirror that never lies. When the boss criticizes you, does the judge awaken or the learner? When the project stretches you, do you recruit Al-Sabr, the patient, or the panicker who writes catastrophes in advance? Ibn Arabi writes in the Futuhat that the self-disclosure conforms to your preparedness. The scene turns the light you're willing to receive. If your inner posture is gratitude, the day arrives as gift. If it is complaint, the day wraps itself in thorns. You won't control all outcomes, but you can refine the vessel that meets them. Money often carries our densest fears, so it easily becomes an idol that demands sacrifice. Yet Ibn Arabi would reframe provision as a dialogue with Al-Razak, the provider, who discloses through channels but is not those channels. When you mistake the channel for the source, scarcity starts to puppeteer your choices. Practice returning the throne. Every receipt, every payment, every act of generosity becomes a rehearsal in trust. Let your giving be intelligent. Boundaries are mercy, too, but let it also be spirited. A needle that pops the inflated story that I am my balance. Over time, you'll feel a subtle dignity settle in. Money serves the heart's truth. It no longer tyrannizes it. To root this in the body, recall Hajar running between Safa and Marwa, desperate yet surrendered, until water rose where there was none. That rhythm, the back and forth of seeking without despairs, honored as a sign for all seekers. Quran 2-158. The Sufi reading is luminous. Stride the valleys of effort, but anchor the heart in reliance. Your Zamzam will not appear from panic. When your finances wobble or a career door slams, walk your 7 rounds. Review the facts, soften the breath, ask for counsel, take the next honest step, release the outcome, give something small, sleep in trust. You are practicing adab with Al-Razak, and the desert inside you begins to green. What makes all this more than self-help slogans is the mirror mystery. Ibn Arabi says in the Fushas al-Hikam that the real is your mirror and you are his mirror. Each reflects the other according to preparedness. This doesn't make you God, it makes you a locus where God's names come to be known. In a heated argument, pause and ask, what in me is being shown? If I keep attracting contempt, is Al-Aziz teaching me to stand? If I keep withdrawing, is Al-Wadud inviting me to disclose tenderness without bargaining? Hear the famous he, not he who Allah huwa, whispers its remedy. See the divine meaning in the person before you, while remembering they are not the absolute. That double vision keeps love clear and boundaries kind. Spiritual knowledge, for Ibn Arabi, is not a pile of concepts but a tasting dockerified in the heart. You know you've tasted when your reactions change without gritted teeth. A harsh email arrives, and, to your surprise, the first movement is curiosity rather than counterattack. That is, knowledge becoming you. The Sheikh of Akbar insists that the imaginal realm, the isthmus, where meanings take form, is not fantasy, but the way reality communicates with the heart. Practice meeting your day imaginally. When you sit at your desk, imagine you are sitting at a small mihrab. When you open a spreadsheet, imagine you are counting blessings. When you enter a meeting, imagine an unseen circle of saints rooting for your best adab. Love remains the master key. Rabia al-Adawiya, that great lamp of Basra, used to pray that paradise be burned and hell extinguished, so that God would be loved for God alone. Ibn Arabi's religion of love meets Rabia's torch and bowl, devotion without calculation, and the Quran echoes the same current in the words of the righteous. We feed you only for the sake of God, desiring no reward or thanks from you. Quran 76-9. When you bring this orientation into relationships, work, and money, the loops loosen because the bargaining stops. You are no longer trying to extract an identity from outcomes. You are expressing an identity received from the real. So, a simple daily choreography to rehearse this vision. Before you cross your threshold in the morning, place your hand on the doorframe and recite a name that you need to host today. In transit, breathe the fourfold rhythm: mercy in, fear out, trust in, control out. At midday, a 2-minute ledger: what repeated, which story ran it, which name could have met it. Before sleep, name one scene where you moved differently. Gratitude seals the growth. Ibn Arabi often points to the renewal of creation in every breath. The more you conspire with that renewal, the less yesterday's self can draft today's script. This is not moralism. It is participation in a mercy that never tires. Let's return to unity. What at Olawujid is not a slogan. It is a tenderness of gaze. When you look at a colleague, a spouse, a stranger, and silently say, "You are a theater for the real," your body's chemistry changes. Aggression drains, finesse arises. You also see your own face in the same light. A theater where patience, wisdom, beauty, and justice want to be known. That doesn't mean you accept abuse or erase difference. It means you refuse to desacralize the field where transformation is possible. Ibn Arabi calls the perfect human the one who gives every name its right. Each time you interrupt the loop, you widen that perfection's footprint in your small corner of the world. We have traveled from the house of love to the desk and the ledger, from Safer and Marwa to the mirror of the names. Now the path bends toward the deepest roots: fate and freedom, forgiveness and the courage to begin again. In the next part, we'll choreograph a step-by-step method to break a repeating pain at its source, drawing on Ibn Arabi's insights into Decree Qadar, repentance as return, and the alchemy of remembrance that remaps the heart. Before we continue, if this journey is serving you, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss part 4 and future explorations. Here is where the pattern ends and your new life begins. Not by magic, not by denial, but by a way of walking Ibn Arabi would recognize clear-eyed, tender-hearted, and intimate with the real in every moment. What if the loop you dread is the exact door the beloved keeps opening for you? What if Qadari, Christ and tea, a cold sentence but the choreography of a wiser love than your plans can imagine? The Sheikh Olakbar keeps whispering, there is no repetition in self-disclosure. The novelty is waiting in your next response. Today we braid everything we've learned into a simple, rigorous method you can carry into your arguments, your inbox, your solitude. This is not theory, this is craft. Let's practice. Step 1. Stop the spin. The instant you feel the familiar ache, call the pattern by its name: abandonment, control, contempt, whatever rings true. Naming collapses the fog. Locate it in the body, jaw, chest, stomach. Set a 3-breath boundaries: low inhale, longer exhale, and say a short dhikr with each breath. Ya Rahman on the in-breath, Ya Rahim on the out-breath. This is you re-entering the present, where choice lives. And trust this quiet promise: God does not burden a soul beyond its capacity. Quran 2:286. Your capacity expands exactly here, in the pause that interrupts the storm. If you do only this, you are already bending the loop. Step 2. Invite anew Tajalli. Ibn Arabi writes in the Futuhat al-Makkiyah that creation is renewed at every breath. What you meet now is not yesterday. Whisper his paradoxy, not he, huwa la huwa, to remember that the form is real enough to honor, not absolute enough to worship. Let imagination serve, not lie. Picture the scene as a canvas the real is painting through. What color wants to enter? Gentleness, clarity, courage. Choose one word and let it tint your posture. This is not pretending, it is consenting to a different self-disclosure. You will feel the room tilt a fraction softer, a shade wider. That tilt is spiritual knowledge tasting you back. Step 3. Host the name, practice adab. In the Fushas al-Hikam, Ibn Arabi says every name seeks its right in the servant. Your job is to welcome the visiting name with the right courtesy. If rigor arrives, meet it with humility. If expansion arrives, meet it with generosity. If silence arrives, stop explaining. Try this in a hard conversation. You sense Al-Hakim, the wise, is present. Speak fewer words, but make each word truer. You sense Al-Hakim, the subtle, is present. Lower your voice, soften your face, choose a kinder synonym. Adab is micro-behavior shaped by metaphysics. It is theology made tactile, the place where loops unravel one gesture at a time. Step 4. Do the opposite act. The nafs reinforces itself through repetition. You unseat it by rehearsing a different move, briefly and bravely. If you usually pursue, pause. If you usually withdraw, disclose one honest sentence. If you usually retaliate, bless and step back. Think of Abraham in the ancestral tale smashing idols, not people. Idols so a truer worship could breathe in the square of his city. Your idol is the behavior that demands sacrifice without giving life. Break it gently and let worship relocate. Say, indeed, my prayer, my sacrifice, my life and my death are for God, Lord of the worlds. Quran 6:162. The altar turns, and with it, the story. Step 5. Walk the braid of fate and freedom. Ibn Arabi reconciles them like two wings of one bird. Decree provides the winds. Intention chooses the angle of flight. Tie your camel, take the sensible action, make the call, set the boundary, then lean back into trust, not as a mood but as muscle. When outcomes resist you, don't collapse into fatalism. Consult again, adjust, and move one bead forward. When doors fly open, don't enthrone triumph. Give thanks and stay steady. Over days you will feel a dignity emerge, a servant of the real, who neither panics nor that poise alters which scenes find you, and how long they stay. Step 6. Practice Tawbah as spiral return. Repentance is not a courtroom, it is a homecoming. Turn back at microscale, many times a day. I spoke harshly, turn. I ghosted, turn. I hid, turn. The Prophet's path models this mercy. After the hardest rejections, he returned with clarity, not resentment, opening the way when power finally returned to his hands. Return without drama and without delay. Ibn Arabi would say each turn polishes the mirror a little more until you recognize who is looking through your eyes. In that recognition, shame loosens its knots. You are not the loop. You are the witness who can choose again. Step 7. Transmute pain through service. Loops are self-absorbing. Service breaks the gravitational field. Offer a small act aligned with the name you're hosting. If your loop is scarcity, give something you can afford. If your loop is isolation, check on someone quietly. If your loop is pride, ask for help. This is not performative goodness, it is alchemy. It moves the energy that would have closed around me into a river that includes you but is not about you. You will notice that relief arrives sideways, lighter shoulders, kinder inner tone, fresher options. The heart's economy changes when it spends itself on the real's behalf. Step 8. Seal with remembrance and trust in provision. A handful of beats, Ya Fatah, to open what feels shut. Ya Shakur, to dignify small progress. Ya Salam, to cool the heat zone into the day like quiet anchors. Then an act of provision, trust. Schedule the payment, send the application, or decline the exploitative offer, and leave the remainder to Al-Razak. Let this promise breathe in you. Whatever good you send forth for yourselves, you will find it with God. Quran 2:110. You are storing grain in a granary that cannot burn. Over weeks, the same crisis will still knock, but it will find a different house, and it won't stay long. Step 9. Remember the religion of love. Ibn Arabi's verse from the Tarjuman al-Ashwaq holds the secret. My heart has become capable of every form. I follow the religion of love. Love here is not indulgence. It is the wideness that lets reality be what it is without surrendering truth. Keep a 40-day ledger of your practice pauses taken, names hosted, opposite acts attempted. Celebrate one small change each evening. When you fail, turn and begin again without theatrics. Revisit the mirror teaching. The real is your mirror and you are his, each reflecting according to preparedness. Prepare yourself with beauty, and the world grows more legible, less punishing, more intimate. And now we close. You have learned to pause and name, to breathe and host, to act against the old gravity, to braid decree with choice, to return without shame, to serve as alchemy, to remember and trust, to widen into love. This is how a loop becomes a ladder. This is how pain reveals its letter from the real. If this journey spoke to you, honor it with action today. Share this video with one friend who needs a new beginning. Leave a comment naming the loop you ready to end, and the divine name you will invite, and subscribe so this practice stays close. May your next repetition be a revelation, and may the one who never repeats himself unveil a new you in the very place you thought was hopeless.